Hi, this is Brian with Ikan, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up the M19W-NDI monitor. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with unboxing the monitor. So as you can see, it comes in a nice big brown box, and so I'm going to go ahead and open it from the top. The box does have a handle on it if you buy the standalone monitor. And so let me go ahead and open it up. As you can see, we have the instruction manual. We have the monitor. We have the 12-volt power supply, and in this video, we're not really going to be showing it being used with this power supply because one of the main features of this monitor is that it supports PoE power, so we're going to be doing everything over PoE. If you buy the standalone monitor, it also comes included with a 19-inch rack mount. This monitor does take up 7 rack units. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take out the monitor now. All right. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the monitor. So as you can see, the NDI monitor comes included with an acrylic screen protector. We have our video input buttons, our NDI preset buttons. We have our tally light selector right here and our power button right here. I'm going to flip it over to the back. In the back side of the monitor, we have our BNC composite input. We have our VGA input, HDMI input, 12-volt power input, and SDI input. We also have our Tally RJ45 input right here. This will be used if you want to use just regular contact closure Tally. And then right here, we have the NDI and PoE++ port. So this monitor supports both PoE++ and NDI over the same cable. And if you want to do Tally over the same cable, you can do that as well. We'll talk about those features here in a little bit. So in order for this monitor to work with PoE, you need to make sure that your switch supports up to 60 watts. If it doesn't support that, then it's not going to work. You'll have to use the regular 12-volt input. You can also see on the back of the monitor, we have a 100mm VESA mount. This is so that you can mount it to either our teleprompters or desktop VESA mount. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug in the monitor. So I'm just going to the NDI port and just plug it right into my switch, and it should power on. All right, we see where we're getting power and the monitor's coming on. All right, now that we have the monitor powered on, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the NDI feature. So this monitor works as both an encoder and a decoder. So whenever say if you have like your camera on a teleprompter and you wanna go out of the SDI or the HDMI and you wanna plug it into the monitor, whenever you set it to the encode mode, you have the ability to turn that video feed into an NDI stream on the network. And then whenever you have it set to decode, that will basically get any high bandwidth NDI streams that are on your network, and it'll get them displayed on the monitor. So you need to make sure that you have the NDI input selected if you want to be able to decode NDI streams. Also, the NDI encoding also works whenever you have either the VGA input plugged in or the composite BNC input plugged in. It's basically just depends on which one you have selected here. So if I have an HDMI, if I have multiple cables plugged into the monitor, like an HDMI and an SDI, depending on which one I'm actually displaying on the monitor, that's what will be encoded to a 1080p high bandwidth NDI stream. So as you can see, we have 2 tally lights right here. Either of these tally lights can be used. They can't be used simultaneously, but basically the whole idea of these tally lights, the reason we have 2 of them is that if you're using this as a script monitor like this, and it's on your teleprompter, laid down flat like this, you want to have this tally light selected as your main tally light. If you're using it as a talent monitor, you want to go ahead and have this one right here on the front-facing panel selected. So you can either choose the top one or the front-facing tally light. And speaking of tally, we have a lot of different ways of displaying the tally on the monitor. So if you have a GPI tally output on your switcher, you can use that with our NDI monitor. We have tally interfaces that are compatible with TriCaster and a bunch of other different brands. So if you want to use those to easily, plug it into the NDI monitor, you don't have to worry about making custom cables or anything like that. It'll do all the work for you. Another way is over NDI. So as I mentioned earlier, whenever you have a camera plugged in here, if you want to turn that into an NDI stream, you can use that encoding feature. And then whenever you're in vMix or you're in a TriCaster, and if you go live with that NDI stream, the tally light will automatically light either green or red, depending on if it's in program or preview mode. Another way of doing tally is with our HTTP API. So we have a tally bridge app for vMix, and that uses our custom HTTP API to read the tally state of vMix, and it allows you to designate each monitor as a camera source. So it's basically like manually inputting your camera that you have designated to this monitor, and it'll relay the tally information based off of which camera is live. It's a completely custom way of getting tally over IP onto your monitor. All right, so now we'll go ahead and take a look at the menu. So let me go ahead and flip this over. Get this to where you can see the menu. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the menu and kind of talk about all of these features. Okay, so you see here the output setup. This will basically give you a test pattern overlay on your monitor. So you can have just a solid white, cross, hatch, color bars, stair gray. This is just a window, a block window. You have H ramp, W ramp, WV ramp, diagonal, red, green, blue, check field, check to, and disable. So we have a pretty good amount of test patterns with this monitor. Let me go ahead and go back to the previous menu. I'm gonna go to image, contrast. Now this will just allow you to set the contrast. So if you hold it down, you can adjust the contrast, and then you can adjust the brightness. You can adjust the saturation, the hue. You can also adjust the gamma from 0.9 to 1.3. You can also change the color tone to skin or green. You can do an edge enhance. So the HV mirror, that will basically let you flip the orientations from either just a standard flip. You can horizontally flip it, you can vertically flip it, and you can horizontally and vertically flip it. So if I go to the menu here and I want to horizontally flip the image, I'll go ahead and turn it on. If I want to vertically flip it, I'll go ahead and turn that on. And this will just, the H shift will allow you to just move the image. This basically just represents how many pixels you're moving the image. And the V shift does the same thing, but vertically. The aspect ratio lets you customize the aspect ratio. You can either stretch it out to fill the screen, or you can select 4:3 or 16:9. If you go to system, this will be the input format. This will basically tell you what signal is currently coming into the monitor. So right now we have 1280 or 1920 by 1080 at 60 Hertz. This will tell you the firmware version. The factory reset will factory reset the device. LCD sleep. This basically will, whenever there's no video signal plugged in, you can give it a certain amount of time before it goes to sleep. Button LED, so as you can see, the NDI button is lit up right now because I have that video input selected, and then I also have NDI input 3 selected as the preset. So this will basically just turn those off. So you see right here it's set to on, and if I turn that off, those will both come off. That's just if you don't want to have those. They might be distracting to some people, so we gave people the option of turning it either on and off. So if you go to NDI IP, that'll tell you the IP address of the device. So if you want to access the web GUI, you can just type in this IP address into your web browser and then you can access it. Tally mode, this will, like as I was mentioning before, this will allow you to choose which kind of tally protocol you want to use. So if you set it to web, that will use the HTTP API function for using it with our tally bridge software. If you set NDI, that will set it to whenever you plug in a video source into the monitor, it'll encode it into an NDI source, and then whenever that source goes live on either vMix or TriCaster, the tally lights will light up accordingly. And then we have RJ45, and that's using that contact closure tally port on the back. The OSD control, that you just want to leave this at enabled. I mean, this is basically, you know, if you want to turn off the OSD. See, and now I'm going to show you how to access the web GUI and how to set NDI sources, decode and encode NDI sources. All right, so you want to go ahead and go to your menu and then go back to the system menu and then go to NDI IP. So it says right here, it's 192.168.1 and then 115. So what you want to do with the computer that you access the web GUI with, you want to make sure that it's on the same IP. So you see that third number, 1, you want to make sure that your computer is set to the same number. So what I'm going to do, if you're using Windows, just go ahead and hit the Windows key, type in ncpa.cpl and then push enter. This will bring up your network settings. So just go ahead and see the network adapter that you're using on your computer. Double click it, click properties, and then you'll see Internet Protocol version 4, TCP IPv4. Go ahead and double click that. And then right here, you want to make sure that you click use the following IP address. So I'm gonna go ahead and type 192.168.1, and then I'll just give it a random number that as long as it's not conflicting with the IP address. So I'll do 116. And then I'll go ahead and set the subnet mask. And then for the default gateway, you want to type 192.168.1 and then 1. Click OK, click OK, click close, and then this should reset your computer's IP address to a static IP address so that way we can access the monitor. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and type in the IP address of the NDI monitor and the web GUI should show up. All right, so so whenever you first see the web GUI, you're gonna see the NDI login page. Okay, so the default username is admin and password. All right, so now I'm gonna show you how to use the web GUI. So if you look at the encoding menu, you can see that it's grayed out. That's because it's currently set to decode. So if I go to the decoding menu, it'll show any NDI streams that are on the network. It'll also show you what NDI presets that you have. So whenever you first get your monitor, there should be nothing in this column right here. I just had set these earlier. I'm gonna get an NDI stream of our main computer display right here, so that way I can display it on the NDI monitor. So if I go to screen capture on NDI, this is a good way to test your NDI capabilities of your monitor. So just make sure that it's set to 5994 or 60 Hertz. And if you're using a 1080p screen, that's perfect because that's what the NDI monitor requires for it to display NDI streams. So it should be outputting an NDI stream right now. So if I go ahead and click Studio Monitor, I can see what NDI sources are on the network. So if I go to the name of the computer and then I go to the graphics output, this is basically a screen capture of my computer window. So now that I know that my computer window is being captured, I can go ahead and display that on the monitor. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and refresh the NDI sources. There we go, it popped up. So if I go to my computer, and if you see this icon right here with the monitor, if you click that, it should automatically just display on the monitor. So if I just give it a second here, there you go. It's being displayed on the monitor. So we also have this plus button right here. So if you want to use the NDI preset buttons, what you want to do is click that plus button. And then basically this will assign the NDI preset. So if I want this stream, which is my monitor recording or my monitor capture, if I want that set to preset 1, I'll just click the drop down, make sure that 1 is clicked, and then I'll click apply. And you can see number 1 is the name of the computer and the graphics output. So anytime you either click that from here on the web GUI, it'll automatically display on your NDI monitor. Or you can just simply push the button and it'll display the NDI stream. So if I click number 2, it's going to be searching for another NDI source that I was testing before, but unfortunately it's not connected right now. So if I go back to NDI source number 1, it'll bring up the computer desktop capture. So there it is. All right, so that covers the decoding menu. So if you go over to the network menu, you can see that it gives you some network setting options. So right now we have the monitor set to a static IP. If you want to change the IP address of the monitor, which a lot of people want to do, you can just go ahead and type in the IP address here, your mask address, and your gateway address. If you want to set the monitor to DHCP, all you have to do is just click the DHCP button and make sure that the monitor is connected to a network that has a router that can assign an IP address automatically to the monitor. Once the router sets the IP address, you can use a IP scanning software and to find the IP address, or you can go to the menu of the monitor just to see the actual IP address of the monitor on the DHCP address. Or you can find the IP address just by going to the system menu and seeing what IP address it designated to the monitor. Okay, so if we go to system, you can change to either decode mode or encode mode. So basically, if you set it to decode, that'll get streams on the network in high bandwidth NDI streams and display them on the monitor. But if you're setting it to encode, that'll just get any video input that you have plugged in and it'll turn it into an NDI source. So you can also change the password. I mean, I would highly recommend anybody that logs into the monitor for the first time to just go ahead and change the password from the standard admin and password. Yeah, we give you that feature here. If you want to do a firmware update, you can do the system update here. You'll just choose the file, then you'll update the firmware. You can also reboot the monitor from the menu here just by clicking the reboot button. You can do a factory reset that'll reset everything back to the factory settings. So I'm going to go ahead and set it to encode. Okay, it says you need to reboot for the changes to take effect. I'll go ahead and click OK, and then we'll go ahead and reboot. Yes. So if I go ahead and refresh the website, it won't be loading up until the monitor fully reboots and then the NDI features fully load up. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it maybe about 30 seconds for it to reboot. All right, so we're back in. And then now if I go to the encoding section, it's not going to be grayed out anymore. So in the NDI encoding section, you can basically you can change the NDI device name. So that way, whenever you're seeing if you go to Studio Monitor or you're using any other type of decoding device, if you want to see what this device is named, you can customize it here. So if you're using any sort of other decoding devices, NDI decoding devices, or a computer like Studio Monitor, you can see this device based off of what it's named right here. So I'm going to go ahead and name it Ikan NDI Monitor. And then you can set a channel name as well. We'll go ahead and leave that. You can actually set the encoding quality. So if you find that the quality is too high and it's kind of bogging down your network, you might want to go ahead and just change the encoding quality. Just keep reducing it until you get a smooth frame rate. And then just hit apply whenever you're done. So whenever you have like an SDI stream or an HDMI stream and it's actually encoding the signal, you can actually see what some of the statistics here are, like the video resolution, the frame rate, the audio frequency, and the bit rate of the video. So you can also change the NDI connection here. You can set it to multicast, and then it'll tell you the multicast IP and the net mask. You can set it to TCP if you want to use that protocol, or if you want to use UDP, yeah, you'd use UDP if you want a little bit lower latency. So most of the time people just set it to auto and they're pretty satisfied with it, so we'll just go ahead and leave it there. This is the M19W-NDI monitor. So for more information, go to icancorp.com.